insert corporate and. The second is on line 186 after the insert corporate and. The third is on line 187 after lease, insert comma, management, comma. And the final and fourth line amendment is on line 193, which would entail the insertion of a enactment clause. And bear with me, basically what this is a provision that I came up with that will hopefully help this jive with the big ABC omnibus bill, so that when that bill passes and repeals next summer, the code of section here that this amendment is made in, that this new provision that we would be adopting if this reported out of subcommittee would not disappear. So that enactment would read that if section 4.1-210 of the Code of Virginia, as amended by this act, is repealed by an act of assembly passed by the 2020 session of the General Assembly, and such act reorganizes the licenses set forth in the former section 4.1-210 as amended by this act by relocating such licenses in various sections of the Code of Virginia, the annual mixed beverage performing arts facility license created by this act shall remain in effect and shall be relocated in the subdivision in which other annual mixed beverage performing arts facility licenses are relocated. So just to recap there, what it says is this provision will live on past the repeal of section 4.1-210, and it will be moved to the new subdivision where we have consolidated the existing performing arts facility licenses together.
Okay, we have a motion. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, the amendments have passed. So you have the last word.
Well, the last word
Well,
is I
do you have the
request
first, last, everything?
that you pass this bill.
Okay. I think,
Motion to approve.
yeah, so we have a motion in a second. Okay, clerk will open the roll. Clerk, close the roll. We have 8-0. Thank you very much. All right, I'm going to give the gavel to Chairman Torian and present my bill, HB 1525. It shouldn't take but a few seconds, and then we're going to go to what you've all been waiting for.
Famous last words.
That's what Nolan said.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you, Chairman. This bill 1525 is to create a tribal land repatriation program and fund. This will allow tribes to apply for grants to help with purchase and recovery of land. The fund would be administered by the Secretary of the Commonwealth, and this fund is really a small step towards righting the wrongs of the past and trying to help the tribes. We have now 7 tribes that are officially recognized, and having this kind of a fund will allow them to leverage the money to be able to access some federal money to do some to get land and help them with their businesses. We only have 2 tribes, Pamunkey and the Mattaponi, that have currently own parts of the original reservation land, but some tribes like the Rappahannock have never received full payments for their land sales. In many instances, the government took the land in the first place and didn't fully compensate the tribe. So I think it's our duty now to work to fix this on the state level. And I've been working my delegate McQuinn is the chief patron on this bill, and we have a budget amendment to jumpstart this fund. But I just want to point out that the tribes, the 6 tribes that have been federally recognized, have given up the ability to do gaming, and so I think this is a small way to recompense that and thank them. So without further ado,
Okay.
pass this.
Doug and I.
Mr. Chairman, we've seen these before, and what it is kind of open a checking account so we can receive funds, and I think it's a good bill. I think you may even be considering an amendment to this bill in the future on something, but Mr. Chairman, I think I'll ask you, I believe the proper motion would be report to defer, because I believe you would have to look at it to create that fund. So.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we report and refer HB 1525
Yes, sir, this House Bill 390. Probably one of the most important things I'm going to tell you is the chief co-patron on this bill is Chairman Bullock. So anyways, if y'all want to make a motion now, fine. If not, I'll continue. House Bill 390 is a product of extensive study here in the interim by the Virginia ABC Authority. The study was requested by the Senate committee. We, in the House committee, we assisted with this. We've had numerous meetings. It accomplishes many objectives, but this legislation brings true and effective regulatory reform to the licensing and permitting functions of Virginia ABC. And through the combination of existing privileges and two similar to existing license types, the variety of license types are reduced by approximately 50%. It's important to note, we're not doing away with any, we're just consolidating this, so the code is going from here to about like this. So we've reduced the pages. We've got, over the years, we've created new licenses, and we keep doing these Christmas trees. As Elliot Hurst knows, he's hanging a few ornaments on there himself. So what we're trying to do is we're going to have a new marketplace license in this bill. We're probably going to have some others in this bill. This legislation raises approximately $2.5 million for ABC for law enforcement, and that 2.5, which is included in the governor's introduced budget, will fund another 26 people. Only a handful of these will be sworn officers. We're trying to do pen and paper for audits, if you can. And currently the law enforcement is one agent to 200 licenses, and it's even higher than that. So we're trying to get some enforcement in here, but we're trying to get this code to where we can do more audits and such. This, I can go through the details. One thing that I want to let you know, most of this bill is going to have a delayed effective date of July 1 of 2021. That's some of the basics. I'd now like to yield to David May, and he's got a number of amendments. Some of them were from the Senate. We've got one or two add-ons since then. And Mr. May.
Mr. Chair, I guess I'll pause for a minute while y'all get acquainted and get your documents there. I'm going to try my best to refer to some line numbers and maybe walk you through a little bit of what this substitute changes as opposed to the introduced version. And if there are any questions as far as just the overall basics of the bill, period, I'll be happy to answer those as well, or do a brief walkthrough, but I'll start by going through the differences between the substitute and the original bill.
Before you begin, let's have a motion to adopt the substitute.
Second.
All those in favor of adopting the substitute, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Okay, so the substitute's adopted. Okay, go ahead, sorry.
Mr. Chair, so the first set of amendments included in the substitute are some amendments that were made on the Senate side. These are purely technical. I'll walk through them briefly. The first is on line 1111. It changes some language regarding an on-premises licensee to an on and off-premise licensee. One of the big pieces of this bill was to get rid of on-premises licensees and say that 99% of our licensees that have on-premises privileges will also have off-premises privileges. So the language just didn't match up with the overall intent of the bill in its original form. The next is on line 1347, and this relates to a provision that allows a winery to sell wine produced by other wineries at their winery. And this would impose a requirement that for any wine that a winery sells that they did not produce, they have to purchase that wine from a wholesale wine licensee. That's current law, but the wholesalers were more comfortable with that language included in the bill, so we added it in. We did the same thing on line 1364. And then the last Senate-related amendment would be on line 1446. We changed an or to an and. And what that did was, for mixed beverage restaurant licensees, it clarified in the minds of some that their wine and beer license that they automatically get by virtue of having a mixed beverage restaurant license would include the ability to sell wine and beer both for on-premises consumption and off-premises consumption, not one or the other. So moving on to the second set of amendments, we have an overall scheme in the bill of deleting permit fees out of the code and allowing ABC to collect fees for permits. They're giving out a lot of permits that they haven't collected fees for years, and basically have been doing things for free. They weren't sure about their authority to impose a fee, so we just clarified that by putting provision in saying that they could collect a fee in the original bill, and then we realized later there were a few permit fees that were still included in the code, so we went back and cleaned that up and made sure those amounts were removed. The third amendment is in the 8th enactment, all the way at the end of the bill. And what this does is, it's basically a copy and paste enactment. All of this language is already in the bill and has been in the bill since the beginning. But what it does is it moves the timeline up a little bit for our amendment to the mixed beverage carrier license. It'll put that in effect for this July instead of next July for certain constituents that wanted to go ahead and get moving on this new structure. The next set is on line 4. Wait, no, it's on line, sorry, line 2298 and 2303. This is language in our tied house section, and it specifically refers to banquet licensees and when they can be issued to certain manufacturers, I believe manufacturers of wine and manufacturers of malt beverages. It makes clear, which is already current practice over at ABC, that one or more licensees can apply for a banquet license together in the event of, say, a craft brewer wanted to have a couple other craft brewers come in, host a special event together. They could do that. This clarifies that. They're already able to do that, but the language is a little bit better, and then it also clarifies that when they're doing that, they're limited to 8 per year, and even if they're only a partial licensee on that permit, that's going to count for one of their 80-year maximum licenses that they can use. And then the 5th category of changes relates to casinos. And basically what it does is, since it was our opinion that casinos could get a mixed beverage restaurant license if they want under current law, but we did create a new fee structure for casinos, which you can see on lines 2767 and 2879. So the first line, 2767, that's the state fee that you're going to have for casinos, which is always higher than the local fee for any license that we have. And under the structure that we created, a casino, and speaking with ABC, it's our thought as of now that the enforcement demands would be a little bit higher on casinos. So in light of that, they would pay the same fee amount as a normal mixed beverage restaurant licensee, but on top of that, there would be a fee of $5 for every gaming device that they have. We're going to tweak that language slightly that I can get ready for full committee. We're going to add on gaming station just to make sure we're covering the tables as well. And those are pretty much the changes that are included in the amendment. I'd be happy to answer any questions on the original bill.
Thank you. So are there any questions regarding the changes? Delegate tonight. Hold on, Delegate Moorfield.
Mr. Chairman, just a question for clarification on line 2768, the $5 fee per gaming machine. Can someone explain?
That's a gaming machine, and we're going to include near a gaming station. So that means every time that you have a slot machine is $5, and every time that you have a table of 21 or a craps table or a roulette, that would be also a gaming station. So we're using the gaming machine and or gaming station to include all of what I just said.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, follow up.
so is that standard practice in other states that have legalized casino gambling? They base a fee off of the.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And there's varying amounts in there, and we kind of picked one kind in the middle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And, Mr. Chairman, all I'll say is this is a large bill with an awful lot of input for a lot of time. Of course, we relied on the expertise of ABC in there, but, you know, I can't tell you how many iterations we've had. You see how thick this thing is, and if we didn't have the institutional knowledge of David May, this thing wouldn't happen in as nice a form as it is, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you. There's been a lot of hard work on this.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, Kelly, for all you put into this. Do we have anybody who wants to, testify in support or against? Do you have any, do we have any other questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Delegate.
So basically, Doug and Mike, what you're doing with this legislation is that we are reforming the number of licenses that we operating under and also making the appropriate adjustments in the fee structure.
Absolutely. Exactly, yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I have a motion.
Okay. Delegate has a motion.
I move to report.
Okay, we have a motion to report and second. The clerk will open the roll. All those in favor, reporting, signify by saying yea and nay. Okay, the clerk will close roll. It's been reported in the 8-0. Thank you very much, everybody, and I appreciate your, my very first time being a chair.